All right, so today we wanted to start out by just talking about the idea of quantifying these great investors, and we're going to really focus in on Warren Buffett. He is one of the strategies. We run a Buffett-based model on Validea, and we'll get into what those investment criteria are, and we'll sort of talk through some of those. But the first question is can you really come close to quantifying an investor like Buffett? And to start, I know this is something you've looked at and we've both read, is that AQR paper, Superstar Investors. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about what AQR was trying to get at in that paper and maybe what some of the conclusions were?
Yeah, sure. To take a step back, there's two really questions here. One is, can you quantify Warren Buffett himself? And two is, can you build a factor-based portfolio that has exposure to similar factors to what he does? And, I think the answer to can you quantify Warren Buffett himself is clearly no. Warren Buffett does a lot of different things. He obviously invests in public companies, but he owns entire companies. He does things like he did in 2008 with Goldman Sachs. He does opportunistic things when he can. Warren Buffett does many, many things, and you can't quantify all that. But what you can do, and this gets at the AQR paper, is you can look at the factor exposures Warren Buffett has had historically, his portfolio, and you can try to mirror those factor exposures. And so in our case, what we did is we took the book Buffettology by Mary Buffett, and we took the strategy. There was a step-by-step quantitative strategy outlined in there, and we follow that strategy for Validea. And the end result of that is something very similar to what AQR found, which is Warren Buffett effectively is exposure to the quality factor, exposure to the value factor, and then what AQR found that we don't do is also exposure to leverage. And so when you follow Warren Buffett's strategy, what you're getting is high-quality companies at try to get them at the best price you can. It's not deep value companies, it's high quality companies, and you're trying to get them at a discounted price.
Right. One of the things that was interesting at the time, and this came up maybe like a year ago, so I think the paper was published 3 years ago. We'll put it in the show notes, but it was that point that Adam Butler made, which is, yeah, it is a result of this value and mostly quality and leverage factor, but at the time, no one really knew of those factors. So it's easy to say like you can identify those were the sources of Buffett's alpha now, but obviously that's looking backwards. So it's easy to say that now, but he was doing that at the time. And by the way, I'll let you comment on that, but it is amazing when you look at the returns of Buffett over, I think it's like 60 years now. So it was from 1965, I think, to let's say 2020, however long that is. He has a 22% annualized return, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's a point AQR made in the paper, which is saying that you can attribute Buffett's return to factors doesn't take anything away from what Buffett actually did. And that gets to the Adam Butler point, which is, we didn't know what these factors were back then. So just because we can go back now and say, all right, it's exposure to this quality factor and this value factor. We didn't know about any of that stuff back then. So what Buffett was doing was truly alpha back then, whereas today it might not be considered alpha because these factors are widely recognized.